Alright, it seems like all the fragrances that I have been anticipating, which I've done anticipation videos about, are now launching. Today I'm doing first impressions of By Kilian's Apple Brandy on the Rocks, and also Verte, another fragrance that I was excited about. Two fragrances just launched from the house of Kilian. I'm going to let you know what I think about these two fragrances and also compare them to previous releases from this house by Kilian, because there's apple brandy that existed. Now we have apple brandy on the rocks, and there were two fragrances that kind of feature similar notes to Verte. It's Taste of Heaven and then Gold Night. So all of that coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. Yes, today it's all about Kilian's latest fragrances, Apple Brandy on the Rocks and also Verte. Both of them I was very excited about. I enjoy apple brandy, so I was curious about apple brandy on the rocks. I enjoy licorice, anise, absinthe, and fragrances. Then we have Verte, which features those type of notes. So two exciting fragrances. Have not smelled them yet, so I'm going to let you know what I think about them on first impressions, and then also compare them to a few other Kilian fragrances, as I said. But before I do, if this is your first time tuning into my channel and you still haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. Who is a fan of By Kilian's fragrances? Let me know. Put a comment down so I can find out. I've been a fan since 2012, somewhere around there, and I've loved their fragrances. I was a big fan of their Ouds collection. I think it was called Arabian Nights. Sadly got discontinued, except for Musk Oud, which I enjoy, but I think some of the other ones like Rose Oud, Incense Oud were a little better than Musk Oud, but they've had great fragrances. And I mentioned this in a previous video. I don't think this is a house you would look up to if you're looking for beast mode, if you're looking for intense fragrance experiences, major projection, big sillage, longevity. They're not the kind of fragrance, but you know, they do release some really delicious fragrances, and they have great gourmands, and these are kind of going in that direction. Not only do they have great gourmands, but they also have great boozy fragrances. So that's kind of what I look for in this brand, and let's see what they are all about. So let's try Apple Brandy on the Rocks first. This is a 50 ml bottle for $1.95, similar to their previous two fragrances, Roses on Ice and what was the other one called? Drawing of Angel Share. I think that's what it was called. So those two fragrances came out later last year. I think they were a hit. At least Angel Share was. I don't think Roses on Ice was as much. But I'm really looking forward to Apple Brandy on the Rocks. Again, 50 ml for $1.95, created by Sidonie Lancesseur, which I know does fragrances for By Kilian, so she's done fragrances in the past. This is a 50 ml for $1.95, so it boils down to $4.24 per milliliter after you factor in tax. So if you were to double this, 100 ml would cost you about $400. So it is pricey, but as I said, I do enjoy the smells. Mostly about the smells for me with By Kilian, not about, you know, longevity and projection and things like that. So here is what it is. Similar to, you know, Angel Share and Roses on Ice, but sadly this kind of I've been noticing a lot of fragrances, not just Kilian, that this thing kind of comes off. Unfortunately, it did here. It's not on tight enough for it to not come off. But either way, I'm not going to fault them for that, but maybe fault the people that put this thing together so that they can do it a little tightly, because some brands I noticed it's when I take off the cap, that stuff is stuck on the cap. So let's smell this one first. But while I'm spraying, I've got notes of bergamot, pineapple, cardamom, oak, cognac, apple liquor, labdanum, cedar, vanilla, and ambroxan in the notes. I'm smelling this, and I'm smelling what I'm liking what I'm smelling. But I'm also picking up the Ambroxan. It kind of when I first sprayed it, it did remind me of Apple Brandy, the original. So Apple Brandy came like this, and I think it was an exclusive fragrance to the New York boutique. Now they've got Apple Brandy on the rocks. So, you know, this is definitely delicious. It's definitely boozy. Like I said, I'm also picking up the Ambroxan, but you know, there's a lightness about it, which is kind of, I wish it was a little thicker as a smell. And that's kind of the fault I have with this brand. Everything smells so good, but they just don't smell very thick. But other than that, when you can't get past that, this is a very delicious fragrance. Very, very yummy. I'm definitely picking up the pineapple. There is pineapple here. Lots of, you know, bergamot as well. And it really does smell like a liqueur, like really literally smells like a liqueur. And I think it's appropriate that they put these fragrances in these kind of, you know, liqueur glasses type looking bottles. That's great. So I'm going to compare this to the original Apple Brandy. This is Apple Brandy on the rocks. I might actually prefer the original Apple Brandy. Let's see. But I always thought that Apple Brandy was not that strong either. So we'll see which one I like better. So the Apple Brandy, the original Apple Brandy, has a lot of darker, like a experience to it. In contrast, Apple Brandy on the rocks has more of a brightness to it. The smell of Apple Brandy seems subdued against the smell of Apple Brandy on the rocks. I'm liking this one. Whatever it is, there's something herbaceous running throughout it, and I'm thinking it kind of has a little bit of like a licoricey thing running throughout it, but they don't mention this. Something green and herbaceous, kind of liquory, boozy, kind of a green herbal note running throughout this Apple Brandy on the rocks that I find really, really delicious. So that's a winner as far as smell goes. Again, it's a little wimpy, but I really, like I said, I enjoy the releases. They have great smells. I just wish they made their fragrances a little more oomphy. That's what I would prefer from this brand. But once we get past that, this smells delicious. So I like it. So that's Apple Brandy on the rocks. 2021 release, created by Sidonie Lancesseur. And then, yeah, I definitely prefer it more than Apple Brandy. And Apple Brandy had this kind of darkness about it, a little more subdued quality. So let's try Verte. The Green Hour, is that what it translates to? I didn't look it up. So I'm a big fan of licorice. Anything licoricey, anisey, absinthe. I mean, I really love drinking things like ouzo. I just love that licoricey flavor. So this one actually was a little more exciting than Apple Brandy on the rocks. And By Kilian had A Taste of Heaven, which was lavender with licorice or absinthe. They also have Gold Night, which also features anise. So they're kind of similar greenish boozy notes. So I'm actually really excited about this Verte. It's created by Mathieu Nardin. And this features notes of absinthe, violet leaf, and patchouli. So if we go back to Roses on Ice also featured violet leaves. I believe it was also kind of a little aquatic or marine. So I am getting the licoricey absinthe touch. I like this one. I'm not sure if I like it more than Apple Brandy on the rocks. This is a little more earthier, it's a little more woodier, and I'm not picking up much of an ozonic quality from the violet leaves. Maybe if I wear it I will, but as a smell it doesn't jump out at me as much as Apple Brandy on the rocks does. Kind of similar, like Angel Share really jumped out at me. I really love that smell, but Roses on Ice kind of fell flat for me. Here, it doesn't fall flat. I kind of like it. There's an earthiness about it, greenness about it. Maybe there's a little bit of oak moss in here as well, but it's absinthe, violet leaves, and patchouli. So I like that combination. It works great. So it's woody, aromatic, soft, spicy. I really like that one, but I'm not sure if I like it more than Apple Brandy on the Rocks. Now, on the other hand, we do have A Taste of Heaven. Let's compare it to that, because again, it's got this licorice-y kind of absinthe note in here with lavender. So in the end, A Taste of Heaven to me seems like it's more lavender. To me, it reminds me on initial spray of Cardamom, Perennium de Cardamom, but yeah, it does develop into the licorice absinthe thing. But that I'm not going to compare to LFSGQUESTIONS Vert. But Gold Night, on the other hand, also has this anise note. Let's try that. Gold Night is honey and anise, I believe. Definitely a lot sweeter. You know, all 5 of these fragrances I'm talking about today are very, very delicious. I definitely know that Kilian does great boozy kind of gourmand direction sweet fragrances. All of them. Gold Night, I think, out of all of them, I prefer the most. Gold Night has a little more depth and substance to it. It's a little deeper and richer. It's a really, really great underrated fragrance. I like honey, and you know, Back to Black is also honey from Kilian, but Gold Night is really, really great. But LFSGQUESTIONS Vert, it smells like when I was a little kid, my mom used to feed me anise tea for tummy aches, and I've had anise tea throughout my lifetime, and it kind of reminds me of anise tea. Very interesting. It's more absinthe according to the notes. So, you know, I'm liking the fragrances. I really like Apple Brandy on the Rocks, but still I think Gold Night really has a little more thickness to it. I think maybe because of the honey note. Honey seems to be thicker and gloppier and, you know, gooier. But once we get past that, Apple Brandy I think is really great in comparison to LFSGQUESTIONS Vert. But LFSGQUESTIONS Vert, as I said, is reminding me of anise tea. If you like that smell, you might dig this one. It's very earthy, and there's this tea-like quality. It doesn't come off very boozy. And absinthe, as a note, does have light booziness, like a green booziness. But here, with LFSGQUESTIONS Vert, I'm not getting much of a boozy quality. So yeah, those are my thoughts on these fragrances. Apple Brandy wins just like Angel's Share did. I just wish it was a little more substancy. Like, I want to wear it and see how these do, but smell-wise I think they're great, but I just feel like they need a little more oomph to them. You know, depth, a little thicker is what I really want. Heft is the word. But have you guys tried these fragrances? Do you like them? Do you like this brand Kilian? And what are your favorite fragrances? Put a comment down so I can find out. Also, do you know Sidonie Lancesseur's creations? She's done a lot of fragrance. She's a very well-known perfumer. A lot of fragrances I've spoken about that have been created by Sidonie Lancesseur. And then Mathieu Nardin, on the other hand, not as well known as Sidonie Lancesseur, but he's been around. He's been making lots of fragrances as well. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Apple Brandy on the Rocks and LFSGQUESTIONS Vert. Let me know if you've sampled these. Let me know if you have a bottle. Let me know if you're planning on buying a bottle. Or let me know if you're skipping these particular releases from the house of By Kilian. I'd like to find out. Either way, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. You can go catch loads of videos on Kilian fragrances on the channel. I have a playlist and all of them are there. You can just watch one after another. If you like this brand, I have, as I said, tons of videos. Anyway, thanks so much for watching today. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.